All right, if you're prepping for the UPSC exams, you know there are some topics you just have to master. And public interest litigation, or PIL, is definitely one of them. It's this incredible legal tool that totally changed the game for justice in India. So today, we're going to break down exactly what it is, how it works, and why it's so important.
I mean, just think about that for a second. There are huge parts of India's population who, because of poverty or just not knowing their rights, can't get to the courts. So if their rights are violated, who speaks for them? How do their voices even get heard? That exact question is the whole reason the PIL was born.
You see, for the longest time, this was the Great Wall blocking the way, the principle of locus standi. It basically meant that if you weren't personally and directly harmed, you had no business being in court. A social worker, a concerned citizen, they couldn't step in to help a group of people in need. It was the legal system's way of saying, sorry, not your problem, you can't file the case. So, with the locus standi rule being such a roadblock, the Indian judiciary knew something had to change. And through this amazing wave of judicial activism, they didn't just tweak the rules, they carved out a whole new path to justice. And that path was the public interest litigation. This all really kicked off in the early 1980s. We had these visionary Supreme Court judges, people like V.R. Krishna Iyer and P.N. Bhagawati, who looked at the locus standi rule and saw the injustice it was causing. So they decided to relax it, to open the doors of the court for any public-spirited person to bring important issues forward. Okay, for everyone studying for exams, this is absolutely crucial. This power to hear PILs isn't just something the courts made up. It's grounded right in our Constitution. The Supreme Court draws its power from Article 32 and the High Courts from Article 226. These are the articles that let them step in and enforce rights for the public good.
Now, this brings us to a super common point of confusion, and you can bet it's a favorite for exam questions. What exactly is the difference between a PIL and a writ petition? I mean, they use the same constitutional articles, right? But trust me, they are not the same thing at all. Let's break it down.
Here it is, the key difference, and it's actually pretty simple. A writ petition is personal. It's about your rights being violated. It's you fighting your own battle. A PIL, on the other hand, is public. It's filed on behalf of a whole community or a group that can't fight for itself. Think of something like bonded labor. So any citizen can file a PIL, but only the person actually affected can file a writ for their own issue.
So let's get practical. You've identified a major issue, something that affects the public. How do you actually file a PIL? Well, it's not as simple as just dashing off a letter to a judge. There's a very clear process you've got to follow. First things first, and you absolutely cannot skip this, research. You have to do your homework, get your facts straight, and figure out who's the authority responsible. Then, and this is important, before you even think about court, you contact that authority. You lay out the problem and you ask them to fix it. Give them some time, say a month or two. The PIL is your last resort. You only file it if they ignore you or if their response just isn't good enough. And now, get this. Look at the cost. The standard court fee to file a PIL is just 50 rupees. I mean, think about that. For less than what you'd pay for a cup of coffee, the system gives any citizen a powerful tool to demand justice for the public. That is what makes it so incredibly revolutionary and accessible. But as with any powerful tool, there's always a catch. And with a tool this accessible, the risk of it being misused is huge. The courts are very, very aware of this, and they've put some serious safeguards in place to stop it. So before a PIL even gets off the ground, the court puts the person who filed it under a microscope. They're essentially asking one big question. Who are you, and why are you really here? They check out your credibility, but most importantly, they try to figure out if your motives are genuine. And then this is a perfect example of how things can go wrong. Imagine someone files a PIL against a construction company saying they're illegally displacing poor families. On the surface, that looks heroic, right? But what if the real motive is to blackmail the builder for a personal payday? This is exactly the kind of abuse the courts are constantly watching out for. This chart really tells the story. Just look at the numbers. The vast majority of PILs that are filed, we're talking 70 to 90%, get rejected right at the start. They aren't even admitted by the court. This just goes to show you how tough that initial screening is. Only the most genuine, most important petitions actually make it through that filter. And what happens if you get caught trying to misuse the system? Well, your case won't just get dismissed. The courts can and do impose some pretty heavy financial penalties on you. It's a serious warning to anyone else who might think about using this noble tool for their own selfish reasons.
So we end with this big question, the central dilemma of the PIL. Is it this vital shield for the voiceless, this incredible engine for social justice? Or has it become a double-edged sword, a weapon that's just as often used for personal gain? The truth, as it so often is somewhere in the middle. It's a delicate balance between incredible potential and serious pitfalls. And that's definitely something to think about for your next mains answer.